Hello, and welcome to Vision Denial and World Watch 2022. My name is Sam, and if those of you who are new here, I have watched every single playoff of 2022. Yes, every single one of them, even that one. Notably, this particular series we were covering the summer of 2022 on our anticipation and preparation for Worlds. And this you have stumbled upon, or you are a regular subscriber and watcher, to the Meet the Teams portion, where I will take a look at every 24 team, their strengths, weaknesses, play styles, notable quirks, interesting things to look ahead, all in the attempts to at least teach some people who don't watch certain regions what to expect from their teams, or from the teams that are going. That said, there are two caveats to really put forward. First caveat: a lot of the things that I'm going to be talking about are data-driven. I will put a link down below to the Google Docs of all of the data I have aggregated all in one nice spot. All of the data comes from the LOL fandom, Wikipedia, and from the goal.gg website, both of which have very different focuses to their data points, and both are necessary for these kinds of videos to work. That said, there's a limitation to some of this data because the LPL doesn't send the data as consistently as the other regions, and this is something you'll find with any particular data point for LoL esports globally. The LPL will still be missing some things regarding plates, drakes at 15 minutes, and heralds. A lot of the early game is not there. That and everything relating to vision. Second thing that I have to point out, a lot of the emerging regions, specifically Oceania, Turkey, Brazil, Latin America, and Japan, their teams will have some inflated stats in their favor. That being in mind, when we're looking at their stats, a lot of them will look good, notably the Chiefs and Detonation Focus Me. So some of the stats for every team has to be taken with a grain of salt of either being maybe stronger than expected or weaker than expected by quite a bit, notably because of this kind of inflation of statistics. When you're studying data, this is the kind of adjustments you need to do. That said, team-based data will look skewed. Individual data for each player's less so, because of the kinds of data points that they keep track of. All of that to say is that a lot of the notes that I've taken are using data points that have been collected that you can all enjoy for free down below, or in the various websites that I mentioned, but taking into account a lot of the personal notes that I use in conjunction with this data to show you what to expect with these teams. Without further ado, let's take a look at this video's team. I don't know. This is a pre-recorded message. Let's take a look. Let's meet CTBC Flying Oysters. Oh, what a fantastic name. The 13th team to qualify for Worlds, the first seed of the PCS, did so by defeating Beyond Gaming in the upper bracket semifinals 3-1, and in the grand finals keeping the first seed by destroying them in a very one-sided series. Let's meet the coaches. We've got Achi here, who is the head coach and has been since the start of the 2022 season, previously having had a lot of coaching positions with likes of J-Team, Super Esports, Mad Team, Billy Gaming, and RW Shark, and has been able to give quite a bit of success for the team. And his assistant coach, Kevin Miller, has been part of the coaching scene for quite some time in 2016 within the Japanese region, coming then from V3 Esports all the way to CTBC Flying Oysters after about a 4-year hiatus, it seemed. These particular coaches have given the ability for the Flying Oysters to play very heavy neutral objective and side lane controlled play, where, and I cannot stress this enough in terms of how impressive some of these stats are, even accounting for the fact that they come from a smaller-ish, from a region that people don't expect to have a lot of success. Their gold differential falls, even accounting for some of the smaller regions, second, right behind Gen G. Their tower differential falls second, right behind Gen G. Their average tower difference falls second, right behind Gen G. Their first tower rate falls second, right behind Gen G. I cannot stress enough how solidly well they play the early game. Heck, even taking account to plates, they fall first ahead of Gen G. This team really knows how to play around their objectives and playing around the early game to gain the kind of objectives they want and play the side lanes incredibly well. People are going to sleep on this team not knowing what to expect from the Flying Oysters and will gain quite a hefty surprise. Let's meet the Flying Oysters top laner. And what a terrifying individual Rest is. Having been part of J-Team since 2016 all the way to the end of 2021, decides to join the Flying Oysters in 2022 with great success. The Rest falls, and I kid you not, first in what is it again? Yeah, it was third in KDA, just behind Tapoon and Evie. Falls first in CS per minute. Falls first in gold per minute. And in gold share percentages for his team, not only does he have an abnormal 23% share between him, his mid laner, and his bot laner, he holds the highest gold share percentage amongst his contemporaries. The Flying Oysters trust in Rest to be able not only to carry them in team fights, but to really push the envelope in side lane play. Rest is a player to watch. He is terrifying in terms of the ways that he plays, and his stats back that up. Now, to note, he does not have a lot of competition given his region, and so that may skew slightly in his favor, but it doesn't seem to skew a whole lot. He's not that far ahead of everybody else in terms of things, but he's just slightly nudging in every department. I will also note, he may have 13 champs under his pool, but out of all of the games, he by far favors Gnar, of which he has 12 in the summer split itself. So the flexibility may look there, and he may seem very consistent, but that may just lean on the fact that he's incredibly good with Gnar. Let's meet the Flying Oysters jungler, Gemini. Gemini has been a mainstay of the scene in Southeast Asia between the LMS and the PCS, having jumped from teams like Hong Kong Attitude, G-Rex, Machi Esports, and now joining CTBC Flying Oysters in the 2022 season, where he's mostly fairly middle of the pack compared to the rest of his counterparts in the jungle position. He falls pretty average, if not on the lower end of kill participation, falls similarly fairly low, if not just on the bottom row of gold share, even very low in the number of champions played. And to be frank, he seems fairly unassuming. And that's totally fair. He's been consistent and allowing himself to give up much of the resources he needs to enable his laners to succeed. And you can notice this based off of the fact that he is on the bottom part of those gold per minute from those who are junglers that gank a lot. You can tell that a jungler ganks a lot by how much time they spend gold collecting. Now, the ideal part is enabling the laners while collecting gold as much as possible. But Gemini, having been on the bottom part of that, at least shows that he is spending time to enable his laners, who are incredibly terrifying, whilst not giving away too much. Let's meet the mid laner of the Flying Oysters. Mission is another mainstay of the scene, having been part of J-Team for 2 years before joining the Flying Oysters in 2022. Mission stats are incredibly impressive and would seem a lot more impressive if this year was not so stacked in terms of mid laners. Even at a ridiculous average of 9.06 CS per minute, he falls 5th place behind so many others. He is a fairly strong contender in terms of team fighting, zone control, and the ability to roam around the map to influence what the Flying Oysters need at any given point of the game. The only caveat to all that, and seems to be a consistency amongst the team in general, is the fairly limited champion pool. He has a very small champion pool, although effective, that is very specific to his playstyle and may result into very easy targetable bans that could set him behind. That said, he is so incredibly effective at what he does that he'll find ways to survive through things that honestly should have killed them in many fights. Let's meet the Flying Oysters bot laner, Shunn. This is his rookie year, guys. He's fantastic. That said, coming in and taking over the shoes of Atlan, he's been a nice cohesive glue for the team. But when you look at his performance and how he goes, he does do incredibly well in team fights and in clutch moments. But compared to his contemporaries, who are, and I will state this every time, stacked like to no tomorrow, he either falls just within line or at the bottom of the barrel. So there isn't much that we should expect out of Shunn coming into this tournament with a whole lot of people, but he has been able to keep up an incredible, just an incredible go at team fighting and gold occupation. He's just a fairly solid player all around who may be overwhelmed within the tournament or step up in an unexpected way. Time will tell. Let's meet the support player of Flying Oysters, Koala. Koala has been part of the Southeast Asian region for a long time, since 2016. Previously of Machi Esports for 2 years, joined the Flying Oysters after that organization disbanded. And having been part of the Flying Oysters, and with the assistance of Shunn, has really given a huge amount of cohesion amongst for the team. That said, he doesn't fall quite in line with many of the others in his role. He also is one of those players who regularly will find moments to create questionable engages. Koala in general does find a lot of time to roam and gain a lot of ability to help his laners out, showing a lot of the times where he is really pushing for the others to gain gold as much as possible. His KDA seems fine, and everything about the way that he approaches the game is standard amongst a lot of supports, but when you're standard amongst a lot of supports going into Worlds, you fall bottom of the barrel on many counts. Time will just tell how well Koala does, given how the Flying Oysters have a bad habit of having very limited vision play, despite their kind of approach that they have for the game. Overall, the Flying Oysters are probably going to be a team a lot of people underestimate, despite the fact that they are incredibly solid in their approach to controlling side lanes, neutral objectives, and early game play. That said, I would not expect them to do the best given their situation. They are up against Gen G, and likely to come through in that particular slot is Royal Never Give Up. Two teams who will absolutely punish the lack of vision and the lack of proper setup for many of the kinds of plays that CFO have excelled in their region. But I would not count them out as a team quite yet. They have been surprising, taking out many teams that people expected to just get out of this region as first and second seed, dominating the region in and of itself amongst peers who are, and let's face it, also very solid. So, much as they would expect, weak vision, but very strong application of neutral control and side lane pressure, especially in the early game. And once that gets rolling around, very hard to control how the Flying Oysters will approach the game. But those are my thoughts, and that's from my analysis of the stats. All of the stats are in the description down below. And if you want to find out how the Flying Oysters made it, go there, or anywhere I put the thingamabob. Editing me will have to have an aneurysm. I will put links in terms of hypercuts of the different playoffs, all of the playoffs, this region's playoffs, as well as other teams that are going to be participating. All of that everywhere and everywhere. I want to hear your thoughts on the comments down below of what you think of this team and how well they'll do within this particular group. Any and everything will be greatly appreciated. And if you like this kind of content, like and subscribe. I'll be making more of this content throughout Worlds. Thank you again for watching. And with that, I hope you have a great day. See you next time.